kids, it's me, Flaming Poop. And today I'm going to be revealing all of my secrets. This is some very valuable information for those of you who enjoy den decorating, and this is like a consistent theme that I use in all of my dens. But if you're one of my viewers who kind of just enjoys the comedy or extreme drama of things like chops and stuff, this might not be the video for you if you aren't into that, because it's not really like super crazy exciting, it's just me giving a boring old tutorial, so. Fun! So if you don't like that, then maybe you can click off if you want, but I would advise you to stay because these are some really helpful tips. If you're a den decorator, you definitely want to stick around for these. And if you're not a den decorator, then you can use these to become a den decorator. So yeah, this isn't just simply color schemes and having a good theme in your den, but this is just literally a secret I use in every single one of my dens to make it work. It's a sort of design that acts as like a curb appeal for the den. And I've never really talked about this, but I realized how important it can be to successful organization, consistency, and that sort of thing in every den. It's actually really hard to describe, and that's why it's getting its own full video. Just like the word denception is used to represent Animal Jam buildings made from combining den items, I have made a little name to describe this style of den decorating. And we're just gonna call it the law of den item placement. That literally took me 30 minutes to come up with, so you better leave a like for my strenuous work effort. Anyways, it's basically like curb appeal for den decorating. It improves the first glance someone has at your den a drastic amount actually. This may sound complicated, and I won't lie, it is. Den decorating is really hard to figure out how to make things work when you use this method, and I sometimes even struggle with this a lot. Den decorating is really hard to figure out how to make things work when you use this method, but the perfect den is never complete if you don't use it. This style can be different depending on interior or exterior, but we'll go ahead and start with exterior since most people find it easier to deal with. So here we are in the small house den. We're going to go ahead and give this a go. The law of den item placement basically is a certain way to place items in your den in order to please the eye. I can simply summarize it by just putting items together in a certain way, instead of off on their own separate in the den. If you think about it, you never see a phantom grass in the middle of my den without something arranged around it or behind it, like maybe a beta fence that leads it to like the edge of the den or some rocks or something like that. So here we are in the small house den, and I'm going to go ahead and begin with a pretty casual example. We're going to go ahead and grab a boom seed tree and a friendly phantom grass. Friendly meaning it's turned in its green form. Also click the boom seeds because they're gross and ugly and get them away. So if you're in my den, you wouldn't just see these separated like this with some grass with worms under it. It just would not really fill up the space of the den, and you want to fill it up as much as possible. So when you're dealing with these two items, there are specific ways to organize them in your den. I think the reason that a lot of people struggle with this is because they don't know what looks good and what doesn't look good, but this idea stays the same for pretty much all exterior plant placement. I'm going to go ahead and push this up to the side, and I'll explain how this works. So when you put the boom seed tree behind the phantom grass, it doesn't really look great unless you cram them together, so that the top of the phantom grass is touching the boom seed tree. So like here's the top, and I wouldn't really want to put it like that. I would push it together so it's like sort of split in the middle, so you kind of put this boom seed tree, and the edge should be right on the middle of the phantom grass. If you pull it out any further, it just simply wouldn't look as good to most people. And if you put it behind the boom seed tree like this, it might look alright, but if you're trying to fill up the den, you would kind of want to go for this style instead, so that you can organize it properly with the rest of the items. It would just look way better if you did it like this. It's also pretty important that the phantom grass is layered behind the boom seed tree instead of in front of it. That just doesn't look good. I don't know why, it just doesn't. It might to you, but like when you're doing a full den, it's just good to keep to these sort of styles. And I know that that's a lot to take in, but that's pretty much how most decorating with plants is. If the plant is growing out of the ground with no trunk, it should probably be layered behind the plant with a trunk. It's really hard to explain all of the little phenomenons that are important for this, but I'll try to sum up a few common examples. So maybe if you're using two phantom grasses, it would once again look bad to just leave them apart and separate. If you cram them together, it wouldn't really make sense either because they're the same item. Maybe if you have a diagonal pathway going through the area you are decorating. The small house den is a good example for this. You can just put one of the phantom grass farther back behind the other to copy the diagonal pattern. So like sort of a diagonal pattern here, just like the pathway. And then of course, you know me, you gotta put that grass with worms under there if you have any. I just love the way it looks under the phantom grass. So maybe you want to add a phantom tree, then go ahead and put that in the corner. And I also sort of prefer phantom grass to come out of this side of the phantom tree instead of like under there, since you can't really see the top of it and it just doesn't really look that good. Staying in the plant theme, but moving on to a different method of organization. If you're trying to take a picture of a smaller area, people like to put trees at the bottom of the screen to form a bush, sort of, if that makes sense. It would look bad to show a little bit of trunk at the bottom of the screenshot. I just prefer to show the full trunk or none of it. But when you are going for this style, it's cool to add certain items like maybe a palm tree or a mangrove coming off of it if you're doing a tropical theme, maybe. Once again, it's better to put them leaning toward a certain side, like this, instead of having them come out directly in the middle, like this. And also, you wouldn't want to show the trunk, unless you're going to show, like, the whole thing, like that. It just looks gross if you have a little bit of the trunk coming out like that. So shove it in. If you need to see more of this style of organization, go look at my Instagram feed and you can see how I organize the plants at the bottom of my screenshot. It's really great to add mangroves, palm trees, or even phantom grass coming off the side of areas, such as the roof in the small house den, for example, since the ground is touching that area. Now that I think I've said enough about plants, I'm going to talk about fences and their angles. You've probably noticed the way Pugfluff and I organize brown pickets with beta fences. We do this because it makes a nice 45-degree angle when you are decorating. But since it's really hard to find brown pickets, I'll just talk about this using beta fences. Even though it doesn't really physically make sense to organize beta fences like this, I like to put one beta fence a little bit higher than the other, then to complement the 2D design of the beta fence. If you're going to do maybe a fence up here instead of at the bottom of your den, add a normal Animal Jam item at the end of the fence. I like to use the bags of feed leaning against this last end post. Maybe if your den has less brown wood, you could go ahead and use white pickets in a front-facing design like this, rather than organizing them like this, because then it just doesn't look too great if you put them like that, because it just makes, I don't know, it just looks bad. We never really fully enclose an area with a fence either, because it just wouldn't look as good as this natural feel of just having them spread throughout the den. So if you use this tactic for fences, don't forget to add some grassed worms under them if you have any. It's important to arrange your grassed worms under an outdoor item, such as maybe this boomseed tree. Or if you look down here, I actually added some under these bags of feed. Kind of like as if someone's running the lawnmower, but they just couldn't get those little edges close to the things thrown throughout the yard. It's also good to make sure that the grassed worms don't connect like this, like a totally straight line. You should have some sort of angle so that it makes a nice natural flow throughout the den. And I probably sound crazy right now, but like these are actually the things that I do when I'm den decorating. It's once again very important to arrange flowers such as tulips and crocus flowers against some other objects, rather than just thrown out in the open. Maybe at the edge of the pathway or against the fence, something like that. And make the patch a little bit bigger by combining the crocus and the tulips, like this. That doesn't look that good. Like this. And it looks pretty cute. But once again, it looks better to have these flowers like tucked at the edge of the fence, rather than just shoving them right in the middle. Wouldn't look as good to do it like that. Same thing for trees and anything that you're putting them in front of, basically, like this. All these techniques apply for lots of different den items, actually. For example, it would look bad to put two nature arches stacked vertically on top of each other. So go ahead and put this off to the right, or to the left if you have them rotated in the other direction, to once again keep with that natural feel of the den. A little bit less vertical and fake. Then you can continue with that and put these rocks against the nature arch to sort of build up the waterfall area. And see, now you have this little space back here that you've created with some fence and that sort of connecting thing, so you can come up from here. Maybe you can put some mats here, whatever you want to do. It would be impossible for me to cover every little way to organize your den items. Just use some of these tips to help you if you are trying to go for a similar look, but maybe with some different den items. And don't hesitate to look at my Instagram feed and get a closer look at the way I organize my den items. Anyways, the most important thing to remember when you're decorating your den using the law of den item placement is just to organize things so that nothing is out in the open and everything fits together and flows in a way that fills up the whole den to get the most out of the space you're using. When you just combine some plants with fences in your yard, then you'll have some nice space maybe to put a statue or a stone circle under it, or a fountain with a portal underneath it. I hope these tips helped you fill up your den and make it look natural. Just make sure that you credit me if your designs are really close in resemblance to that of my dens. I won't cover the law of den item placement for interior design in today's video because I think that would be too much for your brain to handle and you'd probably explode, but if you'd like to see that pop up on your feed soon, leave a comment and I can start working on that one. Please leave any questions in the comments for me to answer. If you enjoyed today's train wreck of a video, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!